Hey there, this is Trevor with Tech Design Tips for Jailbroken Phones. I just wanted to show you a couple new features of LockPlus Pro. The developer June's iPhone has recently added a ton of new features into both the web developer and the mobile developer, which make it a lot easier for people who don't know how to code to make excellent and professional looking lock screens. I see a lot of information on the Jailbreak subreddit, people loving the setup in the chill video, where basically this SB EW9 lock screen iWidget is being circulated around as sort of the best setup for an iPhone. And I think the reason for that is because there's not a lot of alternatives. It's an excellent looking lock screen, has this nested app look with all your apps in a separate partition than your wallpaper and even the time. And a lot of people don't try to look for other wall screens or don't try to create their own because they think there's a huge barrier, a coding barrier to creating these lock screens. And I can show you that, in fact, is not the case at all. And to sort of show you that concept, I think I'm going to take a little inspiration from this SB EW9 created by Evelyn Enam, and we're going to recreate it in LockPlus Pro using the web interface, which is the same as the iPhone interface, just to see how hard it is and how long it takes. Now, my personal guess is that it's going to take about 5 minutes or so to recreate without using any code, just the buttons available on the app. The goal of this video, it's not to just show you how to copy iPhone lock screens or iWidgets. The actual goal is to show you how easy it is to code. And no, I'm not trying to rip off Evelyn or claim this design as my own. I'm actually trying to help a lot of the people who badger this developer into adding new features to the lock screen so that maybe they can just take the completed lock screen that I publish and make a few modifications themselves. So we'll start right here by just adding all of our elements in. I think this is a smart idea, so you just get everything that you want to add on the screen. So you can kind of rearrange it and play with it when you first start. So I'm just going to add all the things basically that Evelyn added into the EW9 just at the beginning. Here we have our time. Looks like we did have a string that included both a 3 and the period in the 58, so I just decided to throw that in. Sunday, August 2018 at the top. I'm just going from top to bottom. Now there were no strings that included both the content above and below the clock, so we're just going to manually add those all together later. For now though, I'm just going one by one and adding those in. Next is the city. I kind of did these a little out of order, but then the degrees, as you see on that bottom status, I guess that'd be row. And then we're adding in the charging and our 100%. So I'm just going to kind of put them out here so I can make sure I got everything. Yeah, it looks like it. Now we're just going to add in some of our squares. Now there are no line elements in LockPlus, so any lines that you see are actually just really short squares. So we're going to add all 3 of these. There's only 3 actual shapes in this lock screen: the top, the middle, and the bottom. So we're going to use the bottom for sort of our bottom element, or the black one. You want the width of your element to be the full width of the phone, just so that it scales correctly on different iPhones. Sometimes from an iPhone 7 or an iPhone 7 Plus or whatever phone you have to an iPhone X, it won't always adjust correctly. So if you have an iPhone X, be sure to just download the theme and adjust the iWidget or the lock screen to fit your phone specifically. So as you see, I kind of shortened those guiding lines for the discharging and battery status bar there, made them only 1 high. We're going to select some colors here. Here I'm just coloring it a little bit of a darker color. 2929 is like a dark gray. We're going to change the opacity so that it's a little bit see-through like the original widget by Evelyn. Now I also noticed that there's a little shadow we can see on the left there, so we're going to add in a shadow. Make it a little bit see-through. So you can see the shadow there, and I'm just turning up the blur on it. It looks about right there. Now we're going to choose white for the lines and just change the opacity to about half. So it kind of is like a faded white, and place them right where they are on the corresponding screenshot I have to the left. I'm just spot checking this design, so by no means am I going through and meticulously looking through the code to see the exact position of all these elements. Kind of just looking at the picture and copying it. This isn't going to be the exact same widget, but it's going to look pretty darn close. So it looks like we have all of our shapes in place. Now we can move on to our text and our styling, making it look. Now we're going to move on to just kind of putting all the text sort of more or less where it goes. So just drag the clock up there, day, city, degrees, charging, percentage. We won't need this actually, because there's a cool feature called suffix and prefix in LockPlus Pro. So I'm going to delete this. What suffix and prefix it allows you to do is take an element like this battery percentage and just add text that won't change onto the front and the back. In this case, we're just going to do remaining in capital letters. Where the 100% will change, the remaining will not change. And the comma, of course. Once we start resizing the text, we'll get all the correct widths for each element down, but for now we're going to just change the font and select the font we actually want. I couldn't find the exact same font for the small letters, so I just chose this font called High for everything. It's fairly close. It's not exact, but it's fairly close. However, for the time I did find the font. It's Master of something. There we go, Master of Break. So this is the exact font used in the original widget. And I'm just going to go through and add in the High font for each additional thing. You probably noticed that the dashes in between all the different elements in the top section are missing. I'm going to show you how to string that all together in any widget so that the spaces don't increase or decrease and everything stays cohesive. So let's just add in some of those dashes. We're probably going to create these strings first. So you can create strings of elements, custom strings that stick completely together by creating a div. A div is sort of, you can think of it like a group. So we go down to the div section and add the first custom div. You have to add them in order. So if you add August 1st, 26th 2nd, 2018 3rd to div 0, we need to do the same thing to the bottom one. So create a new div. This one is called div 1. Now we can drag around that complete group of elements. We're going to do the same thing for this one just to make sure they stay. We're going to add it to div 2 so that they're the same. We can drag them around. You cannot make divs shorter. You can only make the items inside. You can only resize the items inside the div. The div is of a set size. So the only thing you can really do is center div elements. I think you can add colors sometimes, but if you try to apply formatting to the whole div, then it really won't work. You still need to apply it to each separate element. The div is just used to group them together. Okay, so we're going to add in our dashes now. Now the neat thing about these dashes, and kind of frustrating sometimes, you have to actually type out blank spaces. All the div elements are squashed together really close. So if you want spaces in between them, you have to, on the iPhone, paste in blank spaces basically. Or I think it's really easiest on a Mac where you just hold down Alt or the Alt key and then click the space bar. And we can just type out those blank spaces with the dash in between them. Now we'll just change the custom div's complete width to the size of our viewport here. And just kind of spot place it. Okay, so I'm running into an issue where I'm trying to grab the clock. It's being kind of annoying, so I use the feature lock at the bottom to kind of lock up we lock that first custom div so that it can't be selected anymore in this session. Of course, just refreshing the web page and we'll unlock it, or clicking unlock in the top left. So creating the second string, adding in those blank characters, I ran into some issues here. I don't know why, because it is just 5 characters still. In the end, I couldn't really get it to change. So the excellent thing about the web browser for LockPlus, if you're having errors like that 4 even, you can just refresh the page. There's a save state for the web page, so everything will come back in. And as soon as I refreshed it, the spaces in that div are fixed. So we're just going to spot place that once more, make it the width of the phone so that it will center correctly, because you want all of your elements centered in this widget at least. So now let's go up to the center category, just kind of put it in the right spot. There we go. Looks just about right. Maybe make this text just a little bit bigger. That seems pretty close. And of course we'll left align it. We want to center this whole thing so that when we get a 14 or something thrown in there, it won't offset the entire element. The element needs to be as wide. This is for anything. Each element needs to be as wide as the longest amount of text that's going to be there. So if 4 is in there now, you need to design it so that 14 can be in there later. So we're just making that all uniform, placing it right about there. Right now I'm not centering it using the just left aligning it. I'm just looking at the grid that we have and making sure it looks about right. So it looks pretty close. The only thing is there's a capital letter right here where it looks like that's lowercase. Thankfully there's actually a forced lowercase right there. It's a little goofy. This will be corrected in the actual application. Once I put it on my lock screen, you won't be seeing that weird glitch that the websites sometimes give. I don't even think you'll see it when you're designing on the phone. I'm just using the website because it's faster, easier to show things with a cursor. And I have fat fingers, so I always kind of hit around weird items when I'm doing it on the phone. It'll take me a lot longer to do it there, and probably you too. And we'll just kind of name it the same thing. It is the same theme almost, perhaps with just a tribute on the end or something like that. It would be kind of nice, then maybe you guys can apply the lock screen in actual Lock Pro instead of having to download a separate widget or apply it in Zen HTML. Okay, so there's the deal. It's published on the website. You can see it there in the left-hand column. Now I'll jump to my iPhone. We'll see how it looks. We'll see how close it looks to the actual widget. Lock screen versus widget. Now also on this phone, I'm just going to show you guys really quick how to actually get from lock screen to widget, because you do still have to apply widgets using Zen HTML. LockPlus Pro cannot apply the widget, but it can create the widget, and that's the whole purpose of this video, creating the actual widget. I only created and published this as a lock screen because the export to SB HTML is not available on the web browser. So in order to actually export it to an iWidget to put on your home screen, you need to be using the mobile LockPlus application, and you'll get this. I'm just going to jump now to my actual phone. It's an iPhone 8 Plus. I'm going to turn it on here. Currently, I did put apply already EW9 to the home screen so we could sort of compare between the two. So I'm going to go to Themes. I already did a search on LockPlus Pro. And here you can see, here's a lock screen version of EW9. It looks essentially exactly the same. Let's compare the two. And there's the actual one, the original publishing one. So now I'll show you how to actually export and edit the widgets yourself. So on the lock screen after it's downloaded, you just go to Creator right there. You'll open up the menu at the bottom. Now you just click Upload. Upload brings up the export dialog. You can either upload maybe an alteration to the lock screen, or what we're really looking for is export SB HTML. That's how you send the file to iWidget. Now, when you click that, it will automatically be put in a file that Zen HTML will recognize, so you won't have to do any extra work. You can just name it something random, I don't know, EW9 3. Click OK. And done. So we still have the original on our home screen. Now let's go into Settings and Zen HTML. Go to Home Screen. We'll remove the original and add ours. Looks like it just added into the top section is EW93, exactly what we set it as. So we'll tap it. There it is. We'll click the check box at the bottom. And now go to our home screen. Honestly, there's almost zero difference. Looks like the exact same widget. In the next episode, I'll show you how to be a little bit more original and make your own, so that we're just not stuck using this one. Thanks for watching.